That helps me a little bit if I do that. Okay, so here it is, 5:32, calling the February 2nd meeting of the Building Design Committee to order. This meeting is being recorded for those who couldn't make it and want to watch it later on Zoom. If not, feel free and to do what you like, and things of that sort. So I'm going to, first thing I'd like to do is, did folks get a chance to look through? Brian, thank you again for the meeting minutes. And did folks get a chance to look through them?
I did.
All right, I'll entertain any motion.
I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes from this,
Do we need to specify them or no?
November 17th,
yeah,
2025.
November 17th.
Great. Second.
Okay. All right, so I'll go through the votes then. I'll go Brian.
Aye.
All right, Chris.
Aye.
Okay, Tom,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Tony.
Aye.
And an aye for me, so it's unanimous. Thank you again, Brian. Appreciate that. All right. All right. Excellent. So, if at our last meeting we formed a subcommittee to kind of make it so that we weren't all attacking the town officers at the same time. So I've asked Tony to, hopefully folks got a chance to look through what Tony had sent. But if not, Tony, I'm going to make sure that you have the ability to share. Do you want to share?
Yeah, let me see. Hold on. I've never done that before, so
Okay,
bear
so
with me.
should be on the bottom. There should be a button on the bottom that says share,
Yeah, hold on.
and just go for whatever you want to share.
I'm bringing up my file first.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I see
Okay.
share.
Yep.
Okay, can you see that?
Yep. We see your email, Gmail.
Okay, so can you see where it says Town Hall and Ritter?
Oh, no. You're showing us your Gmail right now.
No,
Oh.
it's his
Oh,
file
I'm
folder.
sorry, your file server. Your file.
All right.
Yeah,
Hold
we
on.
have your Lunenburg LMBDC file open.
I wonder why that's the case.
So yeah, you just got to change screens.
Or yeah.
Oh, here we
I
go.
mean, change. what you
There we
showed.
go. You got, is that coming through now?
So
Yeah.
now
Yes.
yes.
All right. Okay. So Dave, I decided to take a little different approach than the email that I responded to you. And one of the reasons why was because I thought, I want to get the committee on my side before I start talking about allocated space. And so I thought I will go through this process. And I want to thank Chris Ruth for doing the original spreadsheet that you see where he talks about how many people are in the various town offices in town hall and then again in Ritter. So using the 165 square feet per person strategy, I allocated based on the number of staff members square foot by that total. So for example, in the assessor's office, there's the assessor plus two staff members. So 3 times 165 square feet is about 500 square feet. And if you take the square root of 495, hold on just a moment. Got to get my little sheet. If you take the square root of 495, that's basically a 22 by 22 foot space. That's pretty good. That's a pretty sizable space for 3 people to work in. Now, when you use that type of a figure, 165 square feet per space, that also includes, open space for, like hallways and an allocation of what you'd need for a restroom, so on and so forth. It's not all for the 3 employees that would be in that area. So keep that in mind. But what I did was I went through, I made one change to what Chris had proposed, the town manager's office. Instead of that being public facing, I thought that's not the right strategy. I think that what we ought to do is we ought to put the town manager so she can meet the public, but not in a public place. And, so what I've done is that everything you see that's been categorized in green is what I call public space, meaning the public needs to get to it fairly quickly. and meet with the staff. Whereas the private or the non-public space are places that, you know, we really don't necessarily expect to see the public in that area. And of course, classic case in point would be something like payroll and benefits in the payroll office. You know, the public really doesn't need to get in there. So I thought I would start by allocating square footage by employee numbers, and then creating two different types of space: public space, as was suggested by Chris, and private space, with the addition of the town manager's office being in that private space category.
Okay.
And
Hey, Tony,
you,
Tony, quick pause. I know you're going to get into it in a little while, but is it possible to delete the columns rows like 13 through 23 so that both of these show up on the screen?
Let me try. I didn't, hold on. Let me see if I can get rid of those.
I'm sorry. It's just, yeah. Just do the delete on the upper right, up in the upper right. You can just do the delete.
Hold on. All right, how's that?
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
You're making me work harder, Dave.
No, I know, but now us visually challenged guys can handle it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now you can see both what was in Town Hall and what was in Ritter. So basically, I created an allocation of space and then divided the space into two separate categories: places where the public needs to get to quickly versus the private. And I went with Chris's recommendations, except for the town manager. I'm calling the town manager, that should be private space. All right.
To be fair, Tony, they're not really recommendations so much as that's kind of what they are now. I guess
Yeah.
town manager is the one that's public facing would really be the executive assistant there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think even the executive assistant, there needs to be some way to kind of slow the public down to get to the town manager's office area. That's my strategy. You know, one of the things that I constantly thought about when we were doing the Taylor and Burns activity was, how do you make sure that some crazy lunatic doesn't get to somebody that they really want to harm in a hurry? And, you know, like, I think that that's where I'm coming from when I say I kind of like to have the town manager someplace where it's not instantaneously accessible by members of the public. There has to be
I would agree with that as well.
some sort of a delay process before you get there, whether it be more stairs, you know, whether it be another floor, just, you know, something like that. Okay, so if you add up the greens, the public is about 2,915 square feet of space. And if you add up the non-public pieces, it adds up to about 1,685 square feet of space. You know, and one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you, the members of the committee, before we talk to the staff, is this is mean and lean. You know, if you go back and you look at the layouts for Taylor and Byrne, there was nothing like this leanness and meanness in their allocation of space. And I think that everybody needs to understand that we're not creating, you know, a 14,400 square foot addition, you know, with this process and this project. It's going to be more disciplined in terms of allocation of space. And I need to get, you know, committee support to do that. Now, you know, I'll go back and say that the 165 square feet of space per person is pretty much an industry standard. And if you look at Greg, I was in Greg Roy's office. He did a map or a drawing for the Ritter, did a floor plan map for the Ritter building. And I guarantee you that Greg Roy doesn't have 165 square feet of space per person. You know, it's pretty mean and lean, but it works for him. And I think that that's kind of what we need to make sure that the staff is aware of. This is not, you know, what maybe some people have been used to. I think that it's going to be something that's much more organized than what we've had in Town Hall and in the Ritter building. But when you look at the totals, you know, of square footage, I think that they're more than adequate to make this work successfully for the town. I did one other thing besides this space allocation. I actually went and based on the drawing that Greg Roy gave me, he and I we talked about basically, just modifying what I'd call old Ritter, the original library building known as Ritter, before the addition was added in 1963. And there's hold on. I'm going to bring up another. I'm going to bring up another. I'm going to actually bring up a picture. It's. Forgive my graphics work, but I don't have the ability to modify Greg's plan that he gave me. But let me bring up something else. Hold on. Oops, wrong one. Hold on.
Actually, what I'm trying to pull up, if I can find it, is I'm trying to pull up what they had done for the different departments in the original, just to compare notes here.
I guarantee it'll be much later than what you saw before. How do I get rid of that picture and bring up? I'm trying to bring up, I sent you a photo.
Yes.
And I'm trying to bring up that photo. Oh, wait a second. I know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I apologize for not having a better capabilities with regards to screen sharing. Let me try this again. Hold on. There we go. Thank you, Dave. All right. Thank you very much. You did what I was trying to do. So what Greg and I looked at was what's the clump of space in old or original Ritter, and what's the clump of space in what's currently the 1965 edition. And based on some very rough sketching and using scale, an architectural scale, the addition has about 1,625 square feet of space. And what Greg and I talked about was modifying the addition, and modifying could be one of three things: adding a second level, increasing the footprint of the existing first floor plan, or the ground level floor plan, or putting a basement in. So you'd have maybe one level really big, or two levels that are about the same as what we have right now, except one would be stacked on top of the existing level, or the other one would be a basement under the existing level. So we said you probably could get by with having twice as much square footage as the 1965 edition. And if you do that, you'd come up with roughly 3,250 square feet of space. And if you said the addition is now where our public functions are going to be, you need 2,915 square feet of space for our public functions using the allocation of 165 square feet per person. So you say, if we had double what we have right now, whether it be up or down below, that's 3,250 square feet. The addition could handle the public pieces. The original footprint, the original Ritter, is roughly about 1,400 square feet per level, a little less. So you have about 2,800 square feet total. And if we said that's where we're going to put the private pieces, the non-public pieces, we need 1,684 square feet based on the allocations that we did. So that would pretty much cover the allocation of spaces needed. So what would happen if we took the approach building off of the 165 square feet of space per person and categorizing public versus non-public space? If we doubled the 65 addition in whatever way makes the most sense, that's where you'd have your public pieces. And then the non-public pieces, payroll, the IT manager and those types of functions, and the town manager, you would put those in the original Ritter floor plan. And I think that since we have a little more square footage than what we would need, using the allocations of 165 square feet per person, you'd have a little wiggle room for things like maybe a bigger conference room than what the town manager would need. And I could just see the town manager in the corner, the southwest or southeast corner of original Ritter, where she'd have windows where she could look out towards Bad Larry's and Town Hall. She'd look across Mass Avenue. And I think that would be on the second floor or the upper level. I think that'd be a perfect place for her. And then that means she's at the furthest point from where the public is gathering to get into the original Ritter. Now, one of the things that we talked about, you see a dashed line on the drawing. It's pretty faint. It extends the southwest blue corner. Yes, thank you, Dave. You could bring if we needed a little more space, you could bring that addition, make it a completely perfectly normal rectangle stuck up against original Ritter. Now, I think that would add to the 3,250 square feet. Now we're probably closer to 3,500 square feet. And if you did that on both levels, it would be, closer to 3,700 square feet. But let me just give you one reason why we have to be very prudent when we start adding new square footage. That corridor, if you go from orange line to dashed line and you fill that in, that's roughly 210 square feet per level. That's about $150,000 more in expense, or about $300,000 more if we decide that we needed that additional new square footage of space. So that just kind of gives you an idea as to what consequences you have when you start adding square footage. And I think it also explains why we had such an increase in square footage when we dealt with the Taylor and Burns design, because of the numbers of square footage associated with corridors to make the alignment of the new annex with the old Ritter, and that you still had the problem of the annex or the 63 addition being out of sync with the original levels of the Ritter building. So we could do that. Now, I just kind of, you see that it looks like there was paper laid over top of something. Yes. And I just did some back of the napkin cost estimates. If we did a 3,250 square foot addition and we modified the original Ritter. And hold on, I didn't want to put that on there because I don't want anybody having that as a retained document, because it's just an estimate and it's just the back of the napkin approach. But hold on. All right, so if we built a 3,200 square foot addition at $650 a square foot, which was the estimate from the Taylor and Burns project, it would be $2.2 million to do that. Now, we would need specialized demolition because we don't want to knock down the Ritter building, the original Ritter building. So I said, I'm going to add $1 million, for almost brick by brick, board by board demolition of the 65 edition or 63 edition, excuse me. And then you say, all right, so now we're going to rehab what's left of the Ritter building. at the estimated cost for rehab of existing facilities that Taylor and Burns come up with, I used $450 a square foot, which I think is actually higher than what they had. So that total project, special demolition, new construction, and rehab, that total project is $4.5 million. And I think that when you look at what we're proposing, I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, I think that's a pretty reasonable figure. But we're talking about a 3,200 square foot, 3,300 square foot new addition, not a 14,400 square foot new addition. That's the difference. And that's the reason why, I go back to my opening statement of, I want your support for us to create, a mean and lean floor plan, not one that's just, dramatically different from what we currently provide our employees. Some employees I think would benefit from having this new layout. A town clerk being one of them. I mean, I think that the town clerk's office is nowhere near what we're proposing. So, I mean, there could be some winners, there could be some losers. But the other thing is, if we did a new addition, we get to design the space just the way we want it. And I think that's one of the missing things, with the existing layouts that we have. Like, the layout for the existing 63 edition basically is a lot of space for a couple people. It's the planner and his assistant, and that's the way it's been forever. So that changes, with us having a specific layout based on the amount of space that we're going to allocate to our employees. Now, the space, if you go back and look at the spreadsheet, we're tossing the Veterans Affairs person out, and that would either be someone who's going to go to the Eagle House, which I don't think has the space for that individual. So where I would propose is that we put the person in Town Hall, because we're going to stop the modified Town Hall. And I think that would be a great place for that person to be. The other thing is, I didn't really focus on allocation of space, square foot by square foot for Town Hall, because I think those functions are pretty much what the Taylor and Burns drawings were. And that is, meeting space on the first floor and meeting space on the second floor. But what we have discussed is that PAC would be on the second floor, and they're already there. Their control panel's already there. They might need some more space to do their studio work, in support of their studio work. And then where the select board space where people currently meet, that's just open studio space. And if we, rehab the building the way it's possible, do the structural work that's required, tighten up the floors, you would be able to use the second floor for PAC. And then the first floor would then be where the select board meets. And I tell you, I just think having the select board meetings and all of our public meetings, like we don't meet in person, but the APDC does meet in person. That's the place where we would go and meet in person, and I think that would be so much better off than us being someplace else, like where we are in the Ritter building now, where you really, like, I don't have a handicap member on the APDC, but if I did, I'd have to use that stupid chairlift that's in there, and I don't want to do that. Whereas if we're using the first floor of the Town Hall and we modify it so elderly people can get into a select board meeting, that means everybody can get into the meeting space for the various committees that meet in person, like the planning board, like the school committee. I mean, I think that having a great setup on Town Hall on the first floor for meetings is the place to go. So that's my 2 cents worth. What I think that we need to do as a group is, kind of buy into the notion that these square footages are what we want to modify and what we want to build. And then I'll go back. Then we should go to start with the town manager and work our way through the various heads of the various departments and say, this is what the committee would like to see built.
So, Tony, I appreciated this. And actually, if you can pull up your spreadsheet. So I'll tell you what, let me pull something up, actually. I'm going to do my side. Share. Here we go. Okay. Share. All right. So what this is the wonderful Taylor and Burns, when they did their final proposal for this new town hall, programming and gross square footage, proposed and all that stuff. And this is what they ended up with, people. So I wanted to take it a second and let's just compare this to what you picked out in your, how much far off we are with, and because this was supposed to be based on interviewing town employees and things of that sort, type of thing like that. So if I look at this and I go, let's see, special services, HR payroll, that's the other one. Okay, town hall. So if I go treasurer and collector's office, and I go for treasury, and well, this would be assessor, and no, this would be treasurer and tax collector. They had 974 square feet. How much space did you have for the two of them?
For the treasurer,
And it would be treasurer and accounting.
we had 830.
Not that far, we're 150 off. Okay. Okay. All right. Town clerk with the vault and everything. So I got to take the vault out, registry of voters. So I'm about 1,000 square feet for town clerk.
I think we have to
way-
keep the vault in there because
Yeah.
that would still be part of the square footage we're planning for the
You
building.
do. And I
Okay.
actually figured the vault about the same dimension that they had, 145. But
Okay.
they're not, their other numbers way, way higher.
And because this has registry of voters, 400 square feet for the registry of voters.
Yeah, that's like what I have for town clerk in terms of bodies is a town clerk and 2 staff members. So that equates to 495 square feet plus 110 square feet or 120 square feet, excuse me, for the vault.
So I'll tell you,
that's like double what I'm proposing.
all right, but a lot of this is because of storage. Registry of voters and record kit storage is a big part for town clerk.
Yeah.
Okay. IT, I'm not going to even bother with that. Assessor's office, they had it at 474.
And we would allocate 495.
All right. Veterans Affairs, state rep would also, I'd say, go into the meeting, Old Town Hall meeting room, Veterans Affair. So we're looking at facilities, you're around 450 square feet for parks and facilities.
There we have 330.
Right, but that's mainly, I don't think we had.
Excuse me, 230. Excuse me.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, 330.
Okay, all right. Building department, this would be, well, there's a waiting room, 192 square feet for a waiting room. There's record storage, so I got to subtract like 200 square feet. So around 600 square feet for the building commissioner, the admin, assistant building inspector, and storage.
That's way above. We
Right.
had 330.
And is there an assistant building inspector right now?
I don't know whether there is. What I was allocating was a building commissioner and a building admin.
Right. Okay. And then they have the record storage is the huge one for them.
Yeah.
But once again, we're going all digital for there. So do you really need 194 square feet of record storage?
Right.
Director health was 288, mainly because 100 square feet of record storage.
Mm-hmm.
Planning department is tough to say because they had zoning board of appeals, which that's the building department's admin has been the zoning board of appeals administrative assistant, so that doesn't even go into effect. Conservation admin, conservation agent, I'd say that's 300.
That's what we've allocated.
There's once again a waiting room, 128. Land use director, 173, and then planning and conservation record storage was 144 square feet. Once again, that kind of thing.
Right.
So the other one was town manager, they gave for town manager 1,000 square feet.
Yeah, I'm giving the town manager less than that, 800 square feet. Or excuse
Okay.
me, 700 square feet. But
Okay.
let's see what's in there. Executive assistants, conference room. The I didn't provide for the record storage. Like the record storage, I mean, like it's 140 square feet, but that's like a 12 by 12 space plus, you know?
Right. Well, it's 12 by
I
12. 144 would be 12 by 12.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's
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 huge.
part of where the growth in the square footage occurred with
Right.
the design, with the Taylor and Burns design.
Yeah. So what I'm saying to you, the main reason I wanted to do this was I don't feel your square footage numbers are outrageous. I feel they're in the ballpark, and
I have some
especially, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
questions
Sure.
to wrap my mind, but do these Taylor and Burns numbers? So I know in Tony's numbers, he's saying here's the square footage, but that also includes bathrooms, that also includes hallways, that also includes every meeting and conference room needed in the building.
Right.
So we say someone might have a 10 by 15 foot, might have 150 square feet, but they don't really. Now,
No.
do the Taylor and Burns numbers use that same approach or no? Because otherwise we're comparing apples and orangutans.
We are comparing apples and orangutans on that respect because remember the Taylor and Burns study had it where, and hold on, let me just see where I am. Page 52. Okay, I got to go way back up here. Meeting room, meeting room, meeting room, meeting room. Come on, give me my footprint here. Meeting house, meeting house. Oh, come on. All right. Here we go. If you remember the Taylor and Burns one, everybody had their own area. The treasury, you walked in, there was this huge area sitting here, which was like kind of dead space. And everybody had a waiting room or a bullpen in their space allocation. This one's not the good one. Here you can go. You can see it here. Board of Health had a whole section. Record storage, 144. Record storage, 194. Waiting area, 128 square feet. So the planning and conservation was a huge area for this thing with the conference room. We're not giving, I mean, my feeling is you don't need separate conference rooms for every department type of thing.
But I guess my point being that the Taylor and Burns numbers are. Oh, now I'm not saying we can't trim from Taylor and Burns. Okay. Like I have some of my own thoughts on this we could get into, but
Yeah.
the Taylor and Burns numbers are the numbers they're using are provided were for exclusively for the listed usable space. That's what I'm getting from this, not for bathrooms or hallways or potentially extra conference rooms. It looks like those might be included here. I'd have to do a one-to-one. Tony's numbers do. So we're saying, well, they're pretty similar because Tony's are only like 50, 30, 100 square feet smaller here or there, except we also need hallways. We need bathrooms. We need all these other things that Tony's numbers are inclusive of, and the larger Taylor and Burns aren't. Again, I'm not saying we can't trim from Taylor and Burns, but I don't know that they're really in the same ballpark at all. If they are, I'm happy to have that explained to me.
Oh, Matt, I'm going to agree. I have to agree with you. Okay. It was mainly, I mean, as we talked about, this became square footage blow
Hmm.
to the most ridiculous extent with the Taylor and Burns thing. And but that's that, there was so much conference space, it's almost and empty space, it was almost ridiculous type of thing.
I I agree, Matt. We weren't comparing apples to apples with by looking at my numbers and Taylor and Burns. One of the things that I did was I thought, the 165 square feet does have to account for the hallways and restrooms, and in industry standards, it does. So I said, all right, what if I took like roughly the allocated numbers come up roughly between the public and the non-public, about 5,000 square feet of space. And so I said, all right, let's reduce that by 20%. Let's give the employees 4,000 square feet, and now let's take 1,000 square feet away for things like restrooms, conference rooms, and hallways. And if you take the square root of, let me make sure I got this right, because I don't want to do this wrong. Trust me. So if you take the square root of 1,000, you got up space 31 by 31, almost 32 by 32. That's a pretty big space to spread around for hallways and bathrooms amongst that 4,000 square feet. And that's what a good designer does. You know, it figures the best place to put that. Mm-hmm. And I think the 4,000 square feet, if we were saying that's just what the employees get to set their butts down in their chair and do their job, I think that's still adequate. I mean, and then looking at it from that standpoint, but you don't know. Now, this is one thing I do know, Matt, is that after talking to the employees, I would prefer to say, all right, let's fill in that 7 by 30-foot hallway that's on that drawing that I shared with you earlier, Dave shared with you earlier, and give them a little more square footage. I would much rather say, well, we've listened and we're going to give you a little more than take the other approach of trying to listen and take it away.
I guess I view it a little different. I view that approach differently. I don't want to walk at them with a number in mind. I want to hear the needs. I think there exist ways to get those needs that can work to prevent bloat. And I like the Moscow method. It's used in software development, but it's easily translatable to other things. But I really don't like that we're sitting here talking about these ideas where we don't have the info. And again, I think I mentioned this last time, but I want us to be clear. We can't plan for Lunenburg of today. If we plan for Lunenburg today, we're already in trouble because it isn't going to be completed tomorrow. Lunenburg is 12,000 people. I think we need to be planning a building that can be used administratively for Lunenburg at 20,000 people. We don't have to like that number's in the future, but that number easily is in our future 20 years from now, and I don't think we're building a 20-year town hall. So I think those are the kind of things we need to really be aware of in this discussion. I have no problem, again, with trimming from the Taylor and Burns. If that was bloated and I can see why it likely was, great. But I don't want to walk in saying we're planning on X. I think we want to hear, we should really hear their must-haves, good, should have. I mean, Moscow is must-have, should have, could have, won't have this time. But so I think getting those from them is going to help us have a better idea, as well as questions about what is it looking forward for us for that department. How is tech likely to change both tech and a growing town going to change? Some of these departments, you almost double the population of town, they're going to change radically. Some will change very little, and I think that's one of the things we also need to be aware of.
Well, you're making my case, Matt, as to why I didn't send these numbers out to the town. I would definitely wanted to get input from you all, but let's keep one thing in mind here now. Like the numbers, the space allocation numbers are still significantly smaller, not significantly smaller, but they're smaller than what the footprint is for original Ritter footprint's basically 2,800 square feet. We need 1,685 using the numbers that I've allocated. So you could have some growth there. On a modern edition, if we are on the 63 edition, if we tore that down and we put a 2-story addition up at that location, if we if we did just what's there, it's roughly 3,250 square feet, and we only need roughly 3,000 square feet. So we got a couple hundred square feet in wiggle room. And then if we filled in that little corridor, so that it was a nice perfect L with the original Ritter, now you're adding another 400 more square feet. So there's room to add, if we need to do that. I think that the most important thing for us to do is to lay a number before the employees and then listen and not be inflexible. I mean, I absolutely positively don't want anybody to feel like, we're shoving this down their throats. But I think it's important for us to say, we want to build, a building that has this much space allocated to employees. The other thing that I'll say, and then I'm going to stop talking because I want to hear what others have to say besides you, Matt. I think that town halls is where we're going to future proof. I think there's two factors that future proof the work that we're doing here. One is you could have 20,000 more, you could have 10,000 more people in Lunenburg. I'm not sure that equates to, for town administrative function, a lot more administrative staff. What it does mean is you probably need more firemen, and you need more school teachers, and you need more police officers, because those are the people who deliver the services based on population. And if we have a consolidation of activities driven by software changes, just like Brian Gingras in the planning and in the building inspection department, I think those things help future proof it as well. I would be worried if we had a town of 20,000 people. I'm not worried about how many admin people that takes to support. I worry about how many firemen, school teachers, and police officers that takes to support, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. All right, I'm putting myself on mute.
So I'm going to say, I'll entertain any comments from anybody else in the committee on this. We're just soaking it in.
I just want to say that looking at the numbers that we had before and now, obviously the town hall that we are talking about now has a lot fewer things in it. The school stuff is all gone, and the ACE program is gone. So it's going to be smaller. I don't know exactly what it will be. I think I think what we talked about the last time was to deal with the current 63 edition and see if we can get more space out of that. One of the things I would say is that if we could do one of two things. We could tear it all down and build a two-story from the level from ground level up, or two stories by digging in so it matches the Ritter building. There's benefits to both sides. I would say the better benefit would be to do a two-story, because then you have office space above ground. Office space below ground isn't as nice. So I would rather build it a two-story addition. And I think we'd have to get somebody who does all the numbers and figures it all out. But I think if we built that, we would have enough space to do the things that we need to do now.
But I guess the question I would have, guys, is what your thoughts on whether we should have a number in front of the town employees when we talk to them, or should we just listen and not have any not try to lead in any way?
We have numbers already, and if they watch this thing, they're going to see it. So but I think we should be talking to them and trying to get whatever number we finally come up with to be something that they would agree with.
Yeah, I think it's important to get the feedback from the employees because I'm very curious about storage. We're taking, it looks like we're taking away storage. I want to make sure that they're going to get enough storage that they need. I would also say too, I do like the two level idea, and I think it makes more sense to have that straight L shape, get that extra square footage, even if the price is a little higher. I think it's worth it to have not only the straight line, but also to get a little bit of extra space.
All right, thanks, Brian. Laura, Chris, any thoughts?
You know,
Right.
we have an employee online.
I was
Chris,
going to say, Chris, you
we,
know, any,
we would really like to hear your input, Chris. And non-attributional.
Um, I'm gonna save my comments for the moment. I've got a couple of things I'm working through in my head here, trying to. I I don't love any of the options, to be perfectly honest. You know, I don't. I think Ritter's got some challenges to it, and I think sometimes we're trying to make something fit that is never going to fit well, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I would again only chime in. I know I've said this. I'm going to keep saying it, and I don't know that the committee agrees with me, and that's fine. But I continue to not be at all convinced Ritter is the right choice for this town hall. It sounds like that's the direction we're going regardless, but I need to voice that I feel like we're doing a lot of trying to putting a square peg into a round hole to a certain extent. And I don't see the value of that building as the town hall.
I think
so,
it's pretty
yeah.
clear that when you retrofit any building, a building built in 1910, you're going to have some challenges. I think for the town, though, you have the Ritter building, which is an existing building, and we have the current town hall. Unless we want to tear these things down, which we don't, we have to utilize them. And so that kind of limits our choices. If we say, okay, let's build a new town hall somewhere, that's great. But then what do you do with Ritter and town hall? And the answer is whatever you do is going to be more expensive because you got more square footage. And, that's just the problem you have. So I think we are stuck unless somebody can have a case that's better than this, to utilize the Ritter building as much as we can to get the value out of it. And then we all agreed that the town hall, the current town hall, is such a building that while it's an old church, we have to figure a way to utilize it because nobody in town would want us to see that deteriorate. So we have to figure out the use for that, and I think that's what that's what we've been trying to accomplish, for the last couple of years. It's not the perfect model. I mean, I wish if we had a blank slate, we wouldn't say, well, let's build the really building the way it is and then build an addition to it. No, we wouldn't, but that's not what we have.
So I actually have a question for the group then. If we're going if the idea would be to tear down the annex, and if the answer comes back that we tear down the annex and then have to rebuild, do we have to put it right there? Could we put it on the other side and make it so that, because and then make it just make the heights equal to what the Ritter is today, type of thing, as well as it would be closer to parking. There's going to be more parking on that side.
I feel like it came up in this group previously that there was I don't remember what it was, but I feel like there was some significant obstacle to using the other side of Ritter. I don't remember the reasoning, frankly, but I think that came up and we settled on the annex side due to there being a problem with the other side of Ritter.
The issue was, more about the subsurface conditions on the existing 63 edition side. And that there might be, ledge on the other side. And, it's like you already kind of have a better idea. Like, for example, if you put the addition on the other side of the building, on the School Street side of the building, you know that you're going to run into, you don't know what you're going to run into. You have to do more excavating than what you would have to do by using the existing 63 edition side of the building. And I actually had thought that if you did a 2-story addition, you could probably salvage you could salvage a portion of the existing 63 edition, not all of it, but some of it, and then work your way around that by adding, on the second floor.
Okay.
I think that this whole issue of the Ritter not using Ritter, I think that's a non-starter. We gotta bring this to a close, Dave, because we need to say that it's the Ritter in Town Hall and not a new building, and we need to make that statement boldly and forcefully, because it affects the planning that we need to do if we're going to use these two buildings.
Tony, let me just do it easy. A couple of things. First, I want to do the thing. So we can talk about that in a second. I just wanted to say Laura's having trouble with her microphone. She sent me a little note. I wanted to just read it. And her thoughts were, I think we're going to have to slow down and wait for public feedback a little. The override effort is going to put a wrench in the works, but Ritter seems to make the most sense. Okay, I just wanted to read that for the record. And guys, I do believe that we have to put away the idea of a new building, because the whole idea in this town, the whole sentiment in this town is that every committee has this tendency to build something new and have no plan for the old buildings. And then we sit here and then we say 20 years later, we're going to have to tear it down because it's condemned and things of that sort. We have 2 historic buildings in town. Folks can argue which way they want and all that stuff. But anyway, it's sensed from the public that there's 2 historic buildings. Town Hall does not have the land or the capability to be made into a larger building to house all of town function and to become future-proof on that. Ritter is our only option when it comes to that. And I'd like to let us just concentrate on the idea of doing something with Ritter on it. It seems to us that, the footprint that we use, whatever we use, the idea of renovating a building is less expensive than building a new. And the idea would be is that making Ritter a showpiece for Lunenburg and making it more of a community area. That's my feeling is. I feel we have an opportunity. It is the dead center of town, and we can make it really a place that people would want to go to in Lunenburg more than anything else. We don't have anything else that we could do that with. And I don't see anything else becoming that somewhere. I miss the band concerts in the center at the gazebo. I don't go to Passios. It doesn't seem the same. It was the gazebo. I would go again if it was in front of the Ritter building, because that to me would be fun and it'd be more something to do. I just, the farmers market, there's so many things that could happen that we could utilize. This space should be utilized better. And I think we need to concentrate on chatting with that and doing that. If you have something that we could, if there's a plan that somebody has that says this is what's going to Town Hall could be, this is what Ritter could be, and we're going to build a new building for town function, I'm open to listen. But the fact is we have to have a plan for these 2 buildings before we move forward with anything else than in this area. Open to anybody's thoughts, and I'm going to get off my soapbox and open to anybody's thoughts.
Dave, do we need to take a vote?
Um, yeah, let's actually, we have most of the committee here. We're just missing two, but I think I have a good feeling for them. But let's go through. So I'll entertain we'll do it as a motion or as a vote. So does anybody I'll guess I'll just say let's have a vote on whether or not we should move forward with the plans for Ritter being town offices and town hall being a meeting room, or or not, I should say, or not. So yes would be move forward with Ritter and town hall as we've discussed. No would be should entertain a third a second option. Okay.
I guess I would push back on this in that I am never a fan of using voting within a committee as a way to stifle discussion. As someone who is pretty firmly against Ritter, I also want to point I'm perfectly willing to move forward here while this is the seemingly the only option. But we haven't even this is the first time we've said as a committee, should we seriously continue? I've brought it up before and the answer's been no. If we want to consider it, we could, but that's an actual process. If we're just looking to stifle discussion, that's a choice we can make. I don't think that's good for decision making myself, but ultimately we'll do what the committee wants.
So all right. So I'll look at this as that the building design committee, if we look at our charter was to look to utilize Ritter to look for a design for town offices in Ritter and town hall. And I don't feel like our charter encompassed looking at another building, a new building. But maybe I'm wrong. And I'm not, Matt, you're right. I'm not trying to stifle conversation. I just feel like we need to keep moving forward. And I feel like this, need to have some proposal to bring to the people in this town that's fiscally responsible and completes the task of kind of future proofing this town.
So,
if we can.
So Dave, one thing I'll say to that is, if the charter is, I'm not saying this is where anyone has to go. If the charter is to find a use for the buildings or a way to reuse them, the answer can be it's not the best plan. Just moving along because that's what the original charter said could get us into the same boat we are now, where we have spent the money on plans that didn't take us anywhere. Not to say that I have the answer, or I'd be totally against it. I just keep seeing the same issues pop up of no matter what we do, there's always going to be a ramp in Ritter because a new building will never line up floor to floor. So if that's people's big sticking point, let's look at something else. It's just those are my only thoughts, I guess.
Let me talk about a bigger subject that should help frame this discussion. In the work that we did with the Master Plan Steering Committee, we explored what are the town's debt excluded capital projects over the next 10 to 15 years. And based on the town's...
Dude, you got Cub Scouts. Come on, man. Ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
I've been waiting outside for 10 minutes.
Go ahead, Tony.
Based on the town's history, there's no way that I would foresee that the town would do more than 3 debt excluded capital projects. And I think that's even questionable today in the environment that the town finds itself in. We know for a fact that there's a high degree of interest in Marshall Park as a debt excluded project. We know for a fact that there's a high level of interest in Turkey Hill. And we basically have been told by vote that there was interest in seeing the town admin facilities fixed, but not at the $22 million price. So let's say that those are the 3 debt excluded projects. And if we're going to take one of those projects and go back to a $22 or $25 million project, because we don't want to use Ritter or Town Hall, that means we're probably not going to do that project. And then then the town will probably have just 2 debt excluded projects over the next 10 years. And we're not going to have 4 projects. And in fact, we have some major capital needs that have to be done with TC Passios. So a way to get to smaller, reasonable projects for all 3 of the debt excluded capital projects that the town has been discussing is better for them to be smaller projects than larger projects. You know, I'll say one more thing. The town has been successfully delivering town administrative services with 2 crappy buildings. You know, I've lived here for almost 6 years now, and I've never had a problem getting town admin services. And what I want to do is I want to continue to get town admin services, but I want the employees to work in a better environment where they can be more effective and more efficient. So the notion that, Ritter doesn't work, the notion that town hall doesn't work is an untrue statement based on fact.
All right. So guys, so let me look at this. Here we are, we're an hour in. I'm going to look at this and say at this point, my question is going to be just as simple. Right now, I think it's the group is agreeing that we need to start talking to town employees.
Mm-hmm.
The question is going to be is, do we want to just go in blank slate with town employees, or do we want to have something that we're talking to them saying, this is what we think, what do you think? Okay, that's the simple thing. Now, we did have the subcommittee, and I mean, I'll take, if there was an opinion on the subcommittee as to which way they wanted to go, I'll listen to that first, and then I would like to hear from the rest of the people on the committee as to what their thoughts are too.
No, that subcommittee has not met. I was hoping we would get together in the new year, but I was hoping to drive that, but I've had a health issue come up that has taken a little bit of my time the past few weeks. So that committee isn't going to come forward with a concise goal. I was hoping we'd be able to originally bring a list of questions or similar to this committee tonight.
Okay.
So just so you have that for that committee.
Okay. So I'll look at it then, and I'm going to look at it and just going to say, it sounds like we need to let the committee meet.
All right, I'll meet.
And then
I'm the chair of that committee, so we'll convene a meeting, and I still would recommend, as the chair of that committee, that we start out with a number, and then
I don't think we
listen
elected a chair.
intently. What was that?
That's
all right.
So I didn't think we had. I didn't know that subcommittee had a chair, but that's okay.
All right. But anyway, I'm not worried, guys. That's not really. But the fact of the matter is, I'd like to give a chance for the committee to meet and come back and let us know on what they're thinking and things like that. I don't think we can move much further today. I believe the discussion's been good in the fact that at least when we're looking at things, there are I think it's becoming clear and clear. There are possibilities of things to do. My whole goal when I come out of this thing is I'm trying to have a project that comes in under the 8-figure number. Okay. That's really my goal, is something that comes in, around, I should say, 8 figures. And that would be both the town hall and Ritter coming in at around 8 figures. I feel like we have the best possibility to getting approval at a town meeting and from town folks with numbers like that. I don't think anybody in this committee believes that a $20 million project is going to get town vote. And it could be the cat's meow and the greatest thing that, make Lunenburg a model for the rest of Massachusetts. But Lunenburg ain't spending $20 million on anything right now. So it is our 2 responsibilities are to try to be, look to have a plan for the buildings that are in town that we might vacate. And 2, come in fiscally responsible. Thoughts? Do folks agree with that as kind of our two goals?
I agree.
Okay.
Very
All
much
right.
so.
Okay. So I'm not sure how much else we have to discuss today.
Can I float some dates for the subcommittee to meet? The subcommittee was supposed to be Laura, Matt, and myself. And then I think Greg Roy said he would be he would if he was available, he would attend.
Okay. So yes, you can utilize the time.
So I'm looking at maybe meeting next Tuesday, the 10th.
Does adding Greg create a quorum issue is my only question. Because that changes. And I didn't remember Greg being on it initially. I have no problem with him. I'm just thinking from the goal was to avoid quorum so we don't have to post everything in minutes, etc.
So let me do it this way then. I'm going to say it's the committee's the three, with Greg being an alternate.
There you go.
Right.
Okay. That way it's easy to get a quorum and it's easier to, all the discussions can happen. So I'm okay with that.
Next Tuesday, the 10th.
Tuesday the 10th.
And Laura, you have to tell Dave because you're one of the committee members.
She says I can do the 10th.
She can do the 10th?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I have a 5:30 meeting, but I'm I don't know if you two are also available for meetings during the day as well.
I am.
I don't know if Laura is, but if so, then that's very easy for me.
She is available during the day.
I think,
all right,
yeah.
so let's meet at 1:00 on the 10th.
That is fine on my calendar.
All right, just waiting for a thumbs up from the third. Thank you for the translations, and yes, 1:00 could work.
All right. I'm putting that on my calendar right now. And I'll see if the conference room at the Ritter is available.
Ooh, the comfy chairs.
Yeah.
That was the 10th. Yes.
They have new chairs at the on the stage at Town Hall.
Ooh,
All
okay.
matching. They
Oh,
look
do
nice.
we? That's exciting.
I haven't sat in them, but they look comfy.
All right. So I'm going to look for us as a committee. We will meet March 2nd. I know that's, I'm just going to ask, I'm hoping that you guys at the end of your meeting will, at least on the question side of, questions that you'd like to be entertained for the town employees. But I'd like to keep things moving here if I can, and just plan for a meeting on March 2nd. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. Super. All right. I think we got everything then. Anything else from the folks in the committee? I'm gonna take that as a no. I don't see any from the public. Any comments? Oh, sorry. Comments from the committee? Any public comments from the committee? I guess I just asked that in a different way. I don't see anybody from the public on the line. So, what do you guys want to do next?
Adjourn.
Okay, great. Do I get a second?
Second.
All right, great. I'm going to go through it. Let's go with Brian.
Aye.
All right, we're going to go with Chris.
Aye.
All right, Matt.
Aye.
Tom.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
And Laura, you want to just give me a thumb or yes? I got that was the 10th. Yes. So I got a yes from Laura and a yes from me. So excellent. I'm going to look at that. We will let you guys have some time back in your evening, and we'll look forward to chatting with you on the 2nd of March.
Stay warm, Dave.
Thank you. I will. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Yes. The shorts are back on. Thanks, guys. Have a
We
great
know how to
evening.
do that here.
Yes.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too. Take care, everybody.